Not going into the political portion of this, I'm
But-
really getting tired of all the people who now are focusing on autistics and treating it like it's an epidemic now, despite the fact that it's only been like 30 years since we even decided it was a
real diagnosis. Followed the studies and discoveries about it since I became independent in 2010. The misinformation that is cycling lately is causing a lot of harm. That is why everybody just keep your head down. Because I feel like there's a lot of people on the spectrum. There's a lot of, when it comes to autism, people are on the spectrum all over the place. Some people have it worse than others. We're probably on the spectrum. We never got tested because we didn't care. Winner, A, Limestar Games. Nice. One bingo. We generally don't, I have a good enough understanding and work within the parameters of whatever part of the spectrum I'm on that I'm just like, all right, fine, whatever. Call it what you like. People who are like clinically and like, either need medicine, etc. Yeah.
My house has to deal with hatch flies, fruit flies, gnats, horse flies, mosquitoes, flying ants, and mayflies.
Electrify the walls. Just electrify the walls. And flamethrowers. My God. I don't think I'd be able to. Dude, that's like being in Vietnam working on a computer. Okay, here's the thing. We know an accountant who goes to Vietnam and helps people with their taxes. Because, it's kind of a free trip or whatever, I think. And he's like, dude, if you turn on a laptop in Vietnam at night, it's over. Because they just all swarm on there. I think he had like malaria 4 times. Oh, God. But autism. Yeah, I mean, it's a big spectrum. I would say at this point, much like everything else, if you have a quirk, let's call it that is with not within the norm of what people think should be normal, I keep it to myself. I really do. I'm just like, yeah. They're like, you're weird. I'm like, yeah, sometimes I'm quirky. That's the thing. People would call it quirky back in the day, prior to actually it being diagnosed and all that stuff. Always, they're quirky. They're a little strange. They're a little quirky. It was a lot easier to have quirky or strange as a label than some clinical thing that they document on a piece of paper now. So say, they're quirky. The best now, especially if you're an artist, they're artistic. You mean autistic? No, artistic. Oh, so they're artists. Yeah. Oh, I expect them to be weird because, normies just expect artists to be weird because they grew up on stereotypes of people throwing their naked bodies against, canvases and saying, it's art. I am art. It's the germane approach to stuff. Oh my God, everything's so sad and depressing. So I'm going to paint the painting with my boobs, that kind of thing. So, it is what it is. So I generally, I've never been one with sharing information. I talk a lot, but I don't share a lot of information. Spectrum has just become more vague and wide range. That's why it seems like it's so prevalent. You are not wrong, because that spectrum covers everybody I've ever met in my entire life. The more you look at the spectrum and how much of a broad swath and just like autism spectrum, it literally covers everybody. It covers everybody. Do you sometimes say something that is not of the social norm? You must probably have autism. Yeah.
The Neurodivergent's Foamy Rand has come out at a very good time, I'd say.
Yeah, there you go. Of course, we're putting a new one up Friday, so I don't know how much impact it's going to have. And that's the thing about Neurodivergent. There isn't one person who has the perfect, what did they say? What'd you say? Asymmetrical brain? With these perfect little thoughts. There isn't that person. Everybody's got a weird idea, a weird dark idea. There's something that goes on. Some people have an inner dialogue, some people don't, et cetera, et cetera. But everybody, because the weird thing is, we always say every human individual is an individual. They're all unique. We keep telling ourselves that, but then we keep lumping people into these samey kind of categories. And that's not the case, because you can have 5 people on the spectrum in the same room and they're all going to be different. Well, I don't understand. They all have autism, so they must be the same. No, they are to you because you don't understand it. To them, it's completely different. One doesn't like loud noise. One doesn't like, bright lights. Somebody likes to draw instead of listening to whatever the hell you're saying. Somebody's really focused on puzzle solving. That doesn't make them autistic. Again, unless you're on an extreme part of the spectrum, that means they have very particularly focused interests. That's it. Artists, they have a particularly focused interest. That doesn't mean it's ADHD to me. This is me. I'm not a medical professional, but then I take what medical professionals say with a grain of salt because I'm always a little skeptical. But I do listen to doctors to a certain extent. Everybody, it's like they have their thing, and to say, well, they're a little too focused on this. That's their interest. Who's a little too focused on stuff? People who are heavily into sports, setting their town on fire because their team won or lost. That's a little too focused. Don't worry about the dude drawing stick figure death cartoons in the corner. Okay? Worry about the people flipping over a car because somebody lost a football match. That's the spectrum I'd worry about. Go. Thank you. Oh, man. Back in the day, I would have been classified as having Asperger's. Now I'm lumped in with high-functioning autists. Sounds artsy, right? Like an auteur. This individual here is an auteur. This one is an autist.
And don't get me started on the football people who try to calculate some team's point value as if they weren't doing D&D in the world of sports.
Yeah. But the thing is, they have a heavy interest in that. I know people have a heavy interest in drinking. They call them alcoholics, but, they're on the beverage consumption spectrum. The thing is, it's like, I just feel like if we can just pull back a lot of these labels, just, rip them off, tear them off, whatever, stop worrying about everything that isn't in an extreme. It's not in an extreme. There are people that you can talk to and they're special in a particular way, but everybody else, like, people are they can't focus on their work. What, do you enjoy your work? No, I hate my job. Can you focus on school? No, I hate school. Oh, well, I guess you have ADHD. Nobody fucking likes their job. Some people do. You're the lucky ones. Okay. But nobody likes school. Nobody likes sitting there in a classroom waiting for the clock to strike 3 and get the hell out of there. They're distracted because what you're telling them is not interesting. What you're asking them to do is not interesting. It's not ADHD. It's knowing in the back of their mind somehow that there's better fucking things to be doing. But you got to know when the Declaration of blah, blah, blah was signed. For what? It's important. It's history. Okay, can we talk about maybe World War II history? I feel like that's a lot more gruesome and interesting. No, we can't talk about that. Well, why not? Well, sensitive issue.
My favorite thing to do when I start to see someone being a label happy jerk is to say, if I spoke your language, my labels would be, insert labels here. If that makes you not like me, then I'm happy to say leave me.
Yeah, leave me alone. Exactly. Well, that's the thing. A lot of people like to define themselves. And because we've talked about the label issue, short version, psychologically, think about this psychologically. If you throw a lot of labels on yourself, those labels become who you are. If those labels are who you are, anytime somebody says something about it, attacks it or whatever, you're going to take personal offense because you've defined yourself by those labels. So you've given those labels more power, and they actually may become a deterrent for you moving past or working with your idiosyncrasies because you use it as an excuse. Because a doctor says, you have this. Okay, for us, hyperacusis. Assuming that's the case, 99% chance it is. What am I going to do? What are we going to do? Go around the world and say, I have hyperacusis. I can't listen to anything you say. Or this is too loud. I can't deal with it. That kind of thing. Look up hyperacusis. If you're new here, don't know what it is, look it up. That's pretty much what we got right now. No, you know what? Fucking man up. The rest of the world doesn't have this shit. Put earplugs in your thing and go about your day. It may be painful. It may be annoying, but come on. Yeah.
I don't consider it as a label in the same vein as like calling yourself a goth. It's more like warning people to be aware of their issue and can adapt like people who autistic already do for neurotypicals.
I don't think there's a neurotypical. I don't think there's a neurotypical. If everybody's psychologically an individual and a unique person, neurotypical is just neurodivergent, which everybody diverged from a particular normal point, but nobody has this apex normality that they refer to, you know? Phil in accounting, he's the apex example of normality. Huh?
Neurotypical isn't about personality, it's about function.
Yeah, but people function in different levels because they're unique. Some people can ride a bike really well, some people can't. Some people can play sports, some people can't. You know? Some people can do math really well, some people can't. Some people can write really well, some people can not write well. Everybody has an aptitude, you know? And an inability to have a particular aptitude doesn't, at least to me, doesn't make it something that needs to be compensated for. If you can't focus on something, you can't focus on something. You're the type of person that can't focus on something. If you're hyper-focused, you're the type of person that's hyper-focused. That's all you are. At least to me, because it rips off all the labels. Just be like, oh yeah, no, sorry, excuse me, I get really hyper-focused. And then what? Then you're going to have that weird background chatter. Oh yeah, they're hyper-focused. They must have this, they must have that. You got this. I can still hear you, fuckers. I'm just really hyper-focused on doing fill in a blank here. Fuck yourselves. Let me focus. Oh, don't mind them, because they have explosive emotional disorders. Oh, now we got this here. I have these disorders because you're breaking my focus, okay? I'm an individual that likes the focus thing, and I get a little agitated when I'm deviating from that focus because people are yelling at me about what I may or may not have. Again, this is just my personal take on this. I know a lot of people use it for various reasons, but I've met a lot of people, various stages of my life, that say they have particular things, don't have those particular things, and then use what they claim to have as an excuse to not do things, to be obnoxious, and have outbursts and stuff like that, when essentially it comes down to them saying, I have this, so I don't have to be emotionally mature. I would rather have somebody be emotionally not of the normal. If somebody has an outburst because, they broke their crayon or something like that, I'm like, oh, dude, what happened? It's just a crayon. And they'll be like, no, you don't understand. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean it, it meant that much. I don't want them to come back at me and say, I'm this way, and that's why I'm upset about this crayon. No, just you're upset about the crayon. I'm sorry about it. I didn't realize you were so upset about the crayon. And, what can we do to make it better? I mean, that's simple enough, right? But everybody likes to just label. I don't know, man. I have organization issues on both a obscenely messy yet insanely ordered. It depends on what it is. My music collection is immaculately ordered. Even to the point of like the little CDs and the CD trays, I go through all of them and make sure that they're lined up properly. Like their titles and the text is lined up properly. That's psychotic. No, I'm really focused on it. I want them, like when I open it, I want it to say what it is right there. Oh, Nirvana, never mind. Even if it doesn't have text on it, usually there's a copyright text around the corner. I usually have that facing down, like on the bottom of it, so it like reads the way it's supposed to. Yeah, that's all.
Neurotypical has been misinterpreted because people attach themselves as being normal for their own perspective. It's more on a biological level of function, like with chemicals, more than consciousness. It's like how woke has become a slur.
Yeah. Well, they not for nothing, they kind of ruined it. Again, when it comes to the concept of woke, you did have those extreme sides of it that ruined it. But then you also had the extreme sides of the other, America folks, who ruined that as well. So now if you're in between, you don't want to be too progressive because you're going to be lumped in the category of blue hairs. You don't want to be too patriotic because then you're, lumped into the category of red hats. Like we're moderate thinking people who have the ability to be conscious and see both sides of that. We're fucked. We're literally fucked because everybody wants to push you to one corner or another. You're there. And it's like, I'm in the middle. I can see both sides of the, Perspective. What's the problem with that? Oh, you agree with this part? You're one of them. What the fuck? But I agree with everything else on the other thing. Well, it's not enough. It's all or nothing, buddy. I'm like, what? Sorry, what's up? How's it going? Why would the bot say consciousness? What? I don't know. I've been rambling, so I'm going to keep up. It's about the same as what you're describing. There you go. Neurotypical is offensive. It's saying I am supposed to just well, that's the thing. If somebody's neurotypical, nobody wants the label of neurotypical. That's a good point. I'm neurotypical. Oh, so you're a normie. That's what we fucking called normies. They weren't neurotypical. They're fucking normies. They're bland-ass people with no interest, aren't focused on anything, and are just dumb as fuck. Okay? That's a normie. That's a neurotypical to me. Everybody else, they were the artistic people, the people very focused on things, musician, whatever you want to call them. They're on the spectrum, okay? Who would not want to be on the spectrum? Spectrum's fucking fun, man. It's like dancing in a rainbow. But it's like, who wants to be called a normie? You're a normie. Oh, God. Yeah. Creatives. There you go. That's back in the day. They're creatives. Oh, he's a creative type. Oh, he's an artsy type, you know? And I don't get it. We claim to evolve to the point where we have a better understanding of our neurology and whatnot.
Butt. Jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. Look at it. Look at my jiggly butt.
Yeah.
Jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. It's beautiful. Jiggle, jiggle.
I'm neurodivergent. I won't look at somebody's butt unless I care about them. Neurotypical would be like, dude, look at that booty. Yeah. So the thing is, like, we evolved to the point of being able to categorize everybody from a neurological standpoint, but we don't realize that it's to a certain extent, again, extremes. Yeah.
You're conflating psychology with neuroscience.
Yeah, but I mean, the lines are so blurred at this point because a neuroscience is going to send you to a psychologist. Go.
Why can't you care about me? Look at me. Care about me.
I care about you, Timmy. I care about you very much. You okay? Go.
If neurotypical is based on the average, then there's a certain perviness that has to be considered standard and normal. Good luck getting the psych people to admit that.
Right? Well, then you got those psychiatrists that are like, well, it's normal to sexualize things, you know, blah, 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 that kind of thing. But then they have to figure out why. Well, why do you sexualize fill in a blank? Did you have issues with your mom? That kind of thing. And you're like, no, man, but dude, let me tell you about my stepmom. Dude, when she's doing laundry. Okay, whatever. No, because she's got to, you know, bend over to take the things and just, I saw this internet video and it's like, all right, I'm just beep, 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 press the little red button and have the people in the suits come up. Yeah, don't get me into the step bro thing. The internet's so fucking weird. Go.
Normies are the people who demanded naked Jermaine to infinity because she was animated in the bathtub for the murder duck episode.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, right? Think about that. A woman in a bathtub covered in blood, and you're like, show me your boobs. A non-normie would look at it and say, yo, bitch is crazy. I'm out, dude. Yeah, but she's naked. All right, you figure out her demeanor when she gets out of the tub. I'm going to go get some coffee somewhere. You know, like, the fuck, man. I don't know. It's just, I kind of wish people would drop labels, you know, because, you know, whether it's neurology or psychology or whatever you want to call it, it spills over, you know, there's race, there's religion, there's political views, there's sports teams, and we're never going to get over it. If we can't get over people beating the crap out of each other over a sports game, we're done, you know? No, great. It's not the same, but doesn't matter. Does it? Because here it is, whether psychological or neurological, you're given a set of parameters. I look at everything in the world. If you're a human being, psychological, whatever, you were given a set of parameters when you were born. Here are the abilities you have. You know, it's getting a random roll when you do a D&D character. This is what you come out as. You know, these are your parameters. Now, somewhere in the grand scheme of things and one's life, somebody should say to you, we were lucky enough to have those people. Okay. Somebody should say, all right, look, you're a little different. You're a little weird. You're like this. Here are your parameters. You're not a people person. Work around that. You know, you're not into sports. Work around that. You really enjoy doing this. Focus on that. You know, I mean, there's people who are born with disabilities that can do more than I can. You know, quote unquote disabilities or actual disabilities. You know, dude, you ever see like people with no arms just doing insanely crazy things? And I'm like, who is this superhuman person? You know, go.
Your persona isn't the same as your blood flowing properly in your body to give you oxygen, though. That's the difference I'm talking about.
No, I understand that. But an example, his blood flow ain't great. He has Raynaud's disease. These are the parameters he's given. What does he do? He can't go out during certain times out of the month because his hands turn fucking blue? No, he puts on gloves. Those are the parameters. Physical or mental. It doesn't matter. You can't run a marathon? Don't run a marathon. Whether it's physical or mental. If you can't do a mental marathon by sitting down and reading the Iliad, don't read it. That's it. Get an audiobook. Watch somebody run a marathon. You know, that's usually my take on it. It's just like we all have parameters, mental, physical, work around them. That's it. Yeah. Dude, misfiring neurons, recognize them, work around them. And it goes back to the entrepreneurial thing. That's our whole fucking thing, working around it. You know? Wait till the rest of the music we have rolls out. That shit gets dark. And people are going to be like, dude, are you okay? You know what we did? We took all that angst, depression, rage, put it in a song, worked around it. No, without the creative arts, there would be problems, you know? So again, even emotional baggage, all that crap, work around it. Do something with it. And I know maybe not everyone can do that because that's their parameters. But recognizing those are those parameters, somebody's got to help. You know, somebody's got to be the person. Here are your parameters, you know? Because you can take anybody. I sincerely believe this. You can take anybody with physical problems, mental problems, neurological, whatever you want to call it. You can get them to do something. You can find something that they like doing, you know? And I feel like they should do this with jobs. There should be a job agency that works with people who cannot get jobs otherwise for misfiring neurons, spectrum stuff, whatever you want to call it. And say, okay, you want a quiet place where you can work on stuff, but you're hyper-focused on this kind of things. You do get distracted with this kind of stuff. Here, I got the perfect job for you. And they give you a particular job that works for you. But the problem is nobody wants to do that because it's a ton of resources to be searching for jobs for people when it's easier to just give them a check for disability, you know? And even a disability check, it has such a negative connotation to it, you know? Like, it's like, oh, you can't do stuff because you're this way. And I'm just like, well, how do I work around it? That is always my first thing. How the fuck do I work around it? You know? We've had a lot of fucked up years. And I'm telling you, not once, and we were dangerously close, not once did we have to apply for disability or unemployment. And we're talking rubbing two pennies together kind of unemployment. We worked around it. And we're determined to do so in the future. Even with this hyperacusis crap, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen. This could just be the status quo. I could be deaf in 5 years. Who the fuck knows? Start breaking out the song language. We'll figure it out. Work around it. Everybody fucking work. That's the moral of the story. Work around it. Damn it. It's the equivalent of the salt tablet. Walk it off. You know, and it becomes a problem solving. And if you can't solve the problem yourself, just realize, look, I need to find somebody who's really good at, solving problems. I want to work around it. Find somebody else who can work and help you work around it. There's got to be a thing. There's got to be a way. There's always a way. Except avoiding death. That's the only thing you have to deal with.